Crazy weather today, isn't it? The sun 1 minute, rain the next.
Yeah.
Don't know whether it's jacket on or jacket off, jacket on, jacket off.
I put my jacket on 1,000 times, and I took it off 1,000 times. Okay? This is stupid. I'm done.
Hello, welcome to Woodshed Reviews, where we look at films old and new, good and bad. On today's show, we're looking at Karate Kid Legends.
Let's make a Karate Kid.
So, Uisdean-San, will we go over the premise of this newly released film? The sixth film,
6 films, wow.
and not including the 65 episodes of Cobra Kai, so they've definitely milked this idea, this franchise.
It's a sequel to 2010's Karate Kid, which was a kind of remake, reimagining of the original film.
At the time, it was like separated from the timeline of the original 4 films, I guess, sort of. But now it's been kind of retconned into it, I guess.
Yeah, bringing them together into one family.
I'm doing this for all of us. Whatever it takes.
The premise of this one is a young boy in Beijing under Jackie Chan's character Han, is it?
Yeah, Mr. Han.
Mr. Han, from the 2010 remake. He moves to New York with his mum after his brother is killed in a street fight. He befriends a young lady there who also happens to have been former girlfriend of the local karate bully. There's a few familiarities kind of going on here.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of this before.
Yeah.
Yeah, which you kind of expect, but it does take a interesting detour, which I wasn't expecting.
I'm going to say interesting, but
Yeah.
you maybe liked it more than me.
It was, well, a peculiar detour.
Yeah, sure.
You want to talk about it?
This girl, Mia, her father runs a pizza joint, and he's in debt because he borrowed money from people he shouldn't borrow money from, loan
Sharks and that, yeah.
So he's in a bit of trouble.
Yeah.
Though he seems pretty cool with everything that happens to him.
Yes, this is a problem that I have with his character, played by Joshua Jackson, who's I like him in that, and he's
He's got a screen presence.
Yeah.
But yeah, a strange way to play the character.
he doesn't care about what's going to happen. He's going to lose his job. He's going to get his legs broken, and this might affect his daughter and stuff. Yet he's like, whatever.
In life, you have only one question. Is it worth fighting for it or not?
So our main character, Lee, he's already a bit of a kung fu expert, which is a bit odd in itself.
Yeah.
He starts coaching the father, who's a retired boxer, but he's going to get back in the ring to try and get money to save his business.
Sure.
So the kid's training the guy, basically.
The kung fu kid is training the boxer for about the first half of the film.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. It's not what I expected at all.
No.
You study karate or something?
Kung Fu. Used to. I don't do any of that anymore.
Yeah, you're clearly over it.
He doesn't win the boxing match. He's illegally kind of knocked out, ends up in hospital, and
nothing.
that's it.
Yeah, nothing comes of that. I mean, these guys used illegal moves to knock him out, and they seem to be tied to the loan sharks,
Yeah.
and he doesn't really get his revenge on them.
No, there's no comeuppance for them, you know.
And he's all right. He seems all right. I got beaten up.
Yeah. Again, he doesn't really care.
Yeah.
And I kept waiting for like this facade to kind of like be broken through and for him to kind of go, man, I'm really worried now, you know, but never came.
No.
You have a foundation of Kung Fu.
We're gonna build upon that with karate.
Ancient way.
Miyagi way. There's 2 of them.
Focus!
I was thinking, when on earth is Jackie Chan and
Ralph Macchio,
Yeah.
gonna come into it. Yeah, they do eventually.
You knew Mr. Miyagi?
I did not come looking for Sensei Miyagi. I came looking for you.
I think you said you expected this kind of like rehashing of the original film. Maybe I was being naive. I kind of thought, like, given even just the title of this, Karate Kid Legends, and maybe coming off the back of Cobra Kai, which did something different and kind of told a different story from a different perspective and was more of a continuation rather than a retelling.
Yeah.
I kind of thought, well, we're going to get something a bit more interesting than what is effectively a remake of the original film and a remake of the 2010, which was a remake of the original film.
I know, it feels like they've thrown all the previous films in a blender and chucked in Rocky 4 and got an AI to write a script.
Okay, yeah, harsh. I'm not going to disagree with you too much there. Also, it feels like we're watching it on a speed run or something. Like, I kind of felt like you're watching it at, like, you know, like 1.5 speed or something.
Yeah, it's the shortest Karate Kid film.
By some margin,
Yeah,
about an hour and a half.
Yeah, and I watched the remake of The Karate Kid the other day, and that's the longest, been 2 hours, 20 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
And this one, if anything, it's not something I complain about much, but this could have been a bit longer.
Yeah, it definitely needed to be longer. I think we kind of burned through a lot of like fight sequences, and there's a lot of character moments that seem to be missing from it. You know, like you say, you know, a lot of films could be done with being shorter these days, but this is one which needed that extra 20, 30 minutes to let it breathe a bit, you know.
It needed that for sure. There's a lot of moments that should be heavy. You should feel more, like the kid's grief of losing his brother, that kind of thing, getting ready for the big tournament. There's not really much of that.
You can't step to guys like him. He wins the 5 boroughs every year.
It's the biggest tournament in the city.
There's this tournament that's going on in New York. It's a bit odd because it's like it's on street level and it feels a bit grungy and off the cuff and all that, but also there's commentators and TV screens and prize money.
Yeah, I was wondering, they should have maybe picked a lane, maybe it should be an underground thing or something.
And it kind of also we kind of burn through the initial fights quite quickly. Not much build up, not much anticipation towards it. Whereas I think in the original film, it's always kind of looming, this sort of thing.
Exactly, it's always there.
Name a place.
Tournament.
You got real nerve, old man. Real nerve.
Jackie Chan film was definitely a sort of like film of its own, in its own timeline. But now they're like, Jackie Chan's like, oh yeah, I know I was best friends with Mr. Miyagi. Trust me, bro. You know, it's like, okay, and they kind of try to give this thing where like they're two branches of the same tree. I think that's the thing they're going for.
2 branches. 1 tree.
And the whole sort of like, you know, how they roll the two of them together by just like Jackie Chan turning up at Mr. Miyagi's old house where Daniel-san is living. And at that point I was like, is this connected to Cobra Kai? Because the house looked more rustic and more dusty and a bit more ramshackle. Whereas in Cobra Kai it's a lot more sheen to it, you know. So I did kind of wonder at that point, oh, are we ignoring Cobra Kai? Which we kind of are. Yeah. I don't know what to make of that.
It's supposed to be set, I think, a couple of years after Cobra Kai, I think.
Okay.
So I don't know what's happened.
So Daniel's let the place go a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically the film ends, and we almost got a kind of classic freeze frame that harks back to the original film, and it fades out, and you think that's the film over. But then there's a very odd transition to the Karate Kid Legends logo, and you're like, okay, we didn't need that. And then it goes into a scene back in California, and we see Daniel and Johnny, and that's probably the funniest part of the film.
It was the funniest part of the film, because I think that's probably one part is there's a lot of attempts at humour in Karate Kid Legends, and I don't know if I raised... There was a few chuckles in my cinema and stuff like that, but for me, not really, I don't think. But yeah, I think... William Zabka is that his name?
Yeah.
As Johnny kind of steals all the laughs right at the end.
Yeah, steals the show at the end.
Yeah.
Put one of those hash browns at the end, you know, like Hash Brown Team Cobra Kai or something. And then send it to the internet!
Sounds like I'm being quite hard on it, but, you know, on a surface level, I enjoyed it.
I was never bored,
yeah.
but I was never invested, I think.
It's good to see Jackie Chan
always
back in the film, always. So, and I think the main kid, he had a good presence.
Yeah, I liked him.
Good skills.
Yeah.
Even all the characters had you know, they're all likable, I thought. But just felt maybe a bit underwritten or not expanded enough.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Makes you think whether a lot was cut out.
And I think as well, like things like the mother character, the kid's mother, who doesn't want him to get into fighting, even when he's just training, Joshua Jackson's character and all that stuff. And then she just comes around. And you just needed that moment where she maybe understands what this means to her son, or that she can't be living in fear all the time and she can't, you know, wrap him up in cotton wool.
So we're just supposed to let him fight? So that he can end up like his brother?
So that he does not end up like his brother.
There must be more to her. I mean, she's obviously lost her son and all that.
Yeah, which would be, you know, you could go into that a little bit. And the original film would have done that kind of stuff. You think about Mr. Miyagi's backstory and all that kind of things.
Yeah.
There's never that kind of, you know, emotional hook to it.
No.
Hey, Senator Miyagi. Yes, sir. Regret to inform wife, son, complication of birth. Sir, complication, but no doctor can.
The original felt more gritty and real.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is something I almost forgot about, but like the actual fight sequences and stuff, it just annoyed me, this sort of video game sort of stuff that was going on with it, where they get punched and there's like effects and points come up like you're playing Tekken or something.
Oh, that really frustrated me, the graphics, the on-screen graphics. I was not a fan of that.
And then they didn't do that for the final fight, I don't think, but then there was a lot of wire work going on with the fight, which just kind of took me out of it a bit. It just felt a bit too, maybe not quite Matrixy, but you're just kind of like the unbelievability of how these bodies are moving in the air and stuff. And having then went for a palate cleanser to watch the original last night is so much more grounded. And just it looks like two teenagers actually doing, you know, moves, karate moves and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
And I get that you need to maybe these days, you maybe need to film things a little differently. And
do you really? I mean, the original still looks amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's streets ahead of this one, I think, in terms of how it looks,
yeah.
how it's written, everything.
You're a pushy little bastard, ain't you? But I like that. I like that.
Like, you know, like I said, on a surface level, I enjoyed it. It's great to see a lot of these folk back on the screen, and they got a charm. A lot of the characters had a lot of charm, which held my attention. And
sure,
it just wasn't compelling enough. There wasn't enough tension.
No, definitely not.
Even though they've been through a lot, you didn't really feel it enough.
No, it just kind of breezes through a lot of that stuff. And like I said, it just felt like we were watching an edited version of the original film or something, missing all that kind of connective tissue and emotional character beats and stuff. And, you know, like I say, some of the characters definitely, you know, were fine and stuff, but they were all kind of taken from the first film, really, more or less, you know.
Yeah.
The karate bully, the sort of like the sensei who's, you know, pulling the strings, all that kind of stuff. I just was hoping for a little more, but
yeah,
here we are.
I know.
When you understand that, you'll be ready.
I think it's a better film in there. I don't know what happened to it.
Possibly, yeah.
I'll give it 2.5.
Okay, yeah, I was swithering between 2 and 2.5, so I'll give it the benefit of the doubt and I'll give it 2.5. Okay, so that's our thoughts on Karate Kid Legends. Did we get it right? Let us know what you thought, and we'll see you in the next episode.
See ya.